The story begins with a lone stickman floating in the emptiness of space, drifting endlessly without direction. Suddenly, his wide round eyes catch sight of a glowing blue sphere. It's Earth, spinning peacefully in the black void. Excitement fills his tiny figure as he flails his arms, kicking his stick legs toward the planet, ready to explore. He doesn't know what awaits him down there, but his determination is stronger than his fear. Earth looks beautiful, calm, inviting. Little does he know, surviving it will be the greatest challenge of his life. As he plummets through the atmosphere, his stick body starts to heat up like a meteor. Flames lick his outline and he screams in silent panic while flailing uncontrollably. The stickman is convinced he's about to burn into nothingness, but with a lucky crash, he slams into a sandy beach, creating a stickman-shaped crater. Groaning and dizzy, he rises up with wobbling knees, brushing off imaginary dust. He survived his first trial, the fiery descent. But survival on Earth isn't just about landing. It's only the beginning of chaos. The stickman takes a moment to observe his surroundings. He sees the glistening ocean stretching far into the horizon, waves crashing violently. Behind him, thick jungles loom with shadows, and above, storm clouds are already gathering. He scratches his round head nervously, realizing he has no tools, no food, and no plan. Only instinct. His first thought? Water. He stumbles toward the ocean, dips his hands, and eagerly gulps it down. The salty taste blasts his senses, making him gag instantly. Lesson learned: not all water is safe. Frustrated, he wanders into the forest. The sound of birds echoes, branches creak, and insects buzz around him. Everything looks alive, too alive. Stickman cautiously pokes at strange fruits hanging from the trees. He sniffs, shrugs, and takes a bite. At first, it's sweet, but seconds later, his stick body bloats like a balloon, eyes bulging in regret. He rolls dramatically on the ground, clutching his belly before spitting the fruit out. Survival rule number 2, not all food is safe either. Earth isn't as friendly as it looked from space. Suddenly, the ground trembles beneath his stick feet. He freezes, wide-eyed, as the soil cracks open and trees sway violently. An earthquake. The stickman panics, running in zigzags while the earth splits apart, swallowing rocks and trees whole. He leaps across widening fissures, his thin legs barely holding together. Finally, he clings to a ledge, dangling until the shaking stops. When it's over, he hauls himself up, shaking like a leaf. Earth itself seems determined to throw him out. But he isn't done yet. No sooner has the earthquake ended than a distant roar builds from the jungle. The stickman turns his head slowly, his eyes widening as a wall of water comes crashing through the trees. A tsunami. The waves rise higher than mountains, swallowing everything in sight. With no choice, he scrambles up the nearest tree, clinging desperately to a branch as water engulfs the ground below. His tiny stick arms stretch thin under the force, but somehow he manages to hold on until the flood passes. Exhausted but alive, he realizes Earth's mood swings are brutal. As the flood recedes, the stickman slides down the battered tree and looks around at the wreckage. The forest is destroyed, animals scattered, and the ground soaked. He sighs, slumping against a rock. But before he can rest, a new danger hisses behind him. He turns and sees a massive snake, eyes glinting in the darkness. Stickman freezes, then slowly tiptoes backward. The snake lunges and he dashes, sprinting faster than ever, weaving between fallen logs. His survival now isn't just against nature, it's against predators too. While running, he stumbles upon an open plain only to find himself facing a stampede of wild animals. Dozens of massive beasts charge across the land, hooves pounding like thunder. The stickman squeaks and bolts in the opposite direction, arms flailing wildly. He zigzags to avoid being trampled, barely sliding under one beast and leaping over another. Dust fills the air, choking him, but his will to survive keeps him moving. Once the stampede passes, he collapses, coughing and trembling. Earth is relentless, testing him at every step. Just as he thinks it can't get worse, the sky darkens. Black clouds swirl ominously, and the wind picks up. Lightning cracks across the sky, striking trees like fiery explosions. Stickman screams as bolts narrowly miss his thin figure, sending sparks flying. He races through the storm, his outline glowing each time lightning flashes. The rain pours down, drenching him until his limbs slip with every step. When the storm finally ends, he collapses face first in the mud, a pathetic little survivor against an unforgiving planet. But the storm isn't finished. The rain continues for days, flooding valleys and turning plains into rivers. Stickman tries to build a shelter, awkwardly stacking branches together like a toddler with blocks. Every attempt collapses, soaking him again. Desperate, he digs into the side of a hill, creating a crude cave. Inside, he shivers, watching water seep through cracks. He curls into a ball, muttering in silent Stickman complaints. It's not glamorous, but it's the first sign he's learning. Earth pushes him, and he adapts. When the rain clears, the sun blazes fiercely. Stickman crawls out of his cave, squinting at the burning sky. The heat is unbearable. His stick body sizzles like a frying pan, forcing him to stagger toward shade. He fans himself with his hands, tongue lolling out in exhaustion. Suddenly he sees a mirage, a shimmering oasis in the distance. Hope fills him, and he runs toward it with all his might. But when he arrives, it vanishes, leaving only dry sand. He collapses, face buried in the dirt, betrayed once again. Hours pass, and the Stickman lies motionless under the brutal sun. Just when it seems hopeless, a shadow passes over him. He opens his eyes to find vultures circling above. Panic jolts him back to life, and he scrambles away. Crawling, then stumbling, he eventually discovers a real river flowing crystal clear. He sprints and dives headfirst into the water, gulping greedily. Relief floods his body as he floats, finally hydrated. For the first time, Earth seems to give him a break. But peace never lasts long. Night falls, and with it comes a new terror. The jungle awakens with glowing eyes, eerie calls, and rustling movements. Stickman huddles by the river, shivering in fear. Suddenly, a pair of jagged teeth gleam in the moonlight, a predator stalking him. Without fire or weapons, he does the only thing he can: run. Branches whip his body as he bolts blindly through the darkness. He stumbles into a cave, squeezing into a narrow gap just as the predator snarls outside. In the silence, he holds his breath, hoping Earth forgets about him for a while. Days blur into each other as Stickman continues his survival. He experiments with tools, breaking sticks into spears and tying leaves into makeshift clothing. His efforts are clumsy, often failing miserably, but bit by bit he learns. He discovers how to spark fire with rocks, dances happily around the flames, and roasts his first edible fish. The sense of victory is enormous, a small triumph in a vast hostile world. For the first time, he feels less like a helpless visitor and more like a survivor, shaped by it. A small smile forms on his simple face as he clenches his stick fists. Earth may be merciless, but he's learning how to endure, and endurance is the key. One morning, he wakes to a calm sky. Birds sing, rivers flow gently, and the air feels fresh. For once, no disasters, no predators, no chaos. Stickman stands tall, arms stretched wide, embracing the moment. He builds a sturdier shelter, collects food carefully, and drinks wisely. The mistakes that once nearly killed him are now lessons etched into his survival. Earth hasn't gotten easier, but he's gotten smarter. He's beginning to belong in his own fragile way.
Yet deep down, Stickman knows Earth will never stop testing him. Somewhere, storms are brewing, tectonic plates are shifting, and predators are lurking. But instead of fear, he feels ready. Each challenge is another step in his survival story, another chance to prove he can adapt. He no longer sees Earth as an enemy, but as a teacher. A harsh, unforgiving teacher with brutal lessons. And with each trial, he becomes something more than a stickman. He becomes part of the planet itself. Finally, as the sun sets over the horizon, Stickman stands on a hill, gazing at the vast landscape. Mountains, rivers, forests, deserts, all the forces that try to destroy him now lie peacefully in view. He breathed deeply, his simple form silhouetted against the golden light. Surviving Earth wasn't about fighting it. It was about learning to live with it, to respect it, and to grow within its chaos. And with that realization, Stickman smiles, ready for whatever tomorrow brings.